Thanks for tuning in to Andrea in the Morning. This is Andrea Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in and following. I hope you've liked our page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/sugar-free coach, as well as on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitter at sugar-free coach. I will follow back and reciprocate. I always do. We are official and we are live. And we are live on Facebook. We are live on Instagram. And we are live on Periscope Twitter. And we are live on TikTok with my friend, the very, very awesome and brilliant Daniel Chapman, author of Can You Find a Four-Leaf Clover and Teach a Girl to Fish? Musician. You can find him everywhere on social media with 1202 Deucely. You can go back and listen to the previous interviews that we did on writing, creativity, all that good stuff, as well as wellness and being an adult on the autism spectrum. We talked about interracial relationships, y'all. We talked about coronavirus. He's a microbiologist. We have pretty much talked about everything, y'all. So we're not going backwards. You got to go back and listen to those. Today we got a very, very special topic that we are talking about today, and I gave y'all a little preview earlier. But I hope y'all share some questions and comments as we get into it.
And how have you been overall?
Oh my goodness. You see this basket case of a mess of what I'm trying to do right now? This has been me. For the past 2 weeks, this has been me doing this right here. And at first it was, oh, we don't have any volume. Then it was, oh, we've got echoey volume. Then it was, oh, we don't have any video. Then it was, oh, whew, I'm good. I can't complain. I've been in a funk a few times, just over the past few weeks and months, but I've been doing good about pulling myself out of it, shaking myself off of it, or, asking for a lifeline when I need one. I'm thankful to have a loving mom and a loving significant other and an amazing network and audience of supporters, whether it be people I've known for a long time or friends or people I've just met like you, who think enough to shoot me a note and ask how I'm doing or come spend time and chat. So I really can't complain, but I can complain because everything that's going on in the media right now, we're the poster children for it. So I could easily complain about all the stuff that everybody is complaining about, but
yeah,
it's exhausting, we've been black.
Yeah.
It ain't new. We've
Yeah.
been autistic. It ain't
Yeah.
new. So I'm trying to find a balance, being an advocate and doing self-care and being real, talking about what needs to be talked about, but just not letting it, be too heavy on me.
Yeah.
How
I
about
gotta,
you?
sh- I gotta shout out one of my friends, Kayla Caruso. She is, she's great. She's the woman who kind of helped me and Sam get together. She kind of like facilitated that whole thing. Like when I tell you I am dense sometimes, like I am very dense, but like she kind of helped
Like
make
you didn't know she was interested, or you didn't know you had a chance, or that sort of thing you're saying?
kind of like even worse than that. Like it was like clearly stated that there was a chance and that she was interested, but I was still like, no, this can't be.
That's not dense. That's having
It's-
like not having enough confidence in yourself. That's not dense.
I guess maybe that's what I was like. I don't know. I was just like, I was like,
I'm dense
I know
like
it's
that. No, I am the somebody is interested in you and you're like la la la, don't even realize it, don't even notice.
I was like,
Oh,
it's
me? That's
what it
me.
was. What I realized later, what it was because it didn't look like what I had been raised up for interest to look like. So
You
I
going
was,
there already in the very beginning of the show? You just gonna go there?
I was just like, I've had to learn, and unlearn a lot of things, and like,
Are you beating around the bush, Daniel Chapman? You need to. These folks don't know what you mean by that. They don't know you. You better go on and explain what you mean. Go on and say it. Make it plain.
the past 3 months, and I said, and it's crazy because nothing has changed about my schedule. Like realistically, I do work in the healthcare field, so like, I mean, medicine still needs to be stocked. Like the industry still needs to be supplied. So like, I'm out there, but like, it is a little bit. It's quieter still. Like the world is quieter still, and it's giving me the time to sit back and think about like what really happened. Like back in 2017 when I went to therapy, what really happened, and I got the chance to sit down. And it's crazy because even like I even think about the whole process of choosing therapy, going to therapy, and like it was. I'd searched through. I went on Penn State's they have like a website where they list all the therapists and like the surrounding campuses and hospitals and whatnot. So I went on that list, and I started searching, and like I went through and like I very carefully selected. I was like, no.
Good for you.
Like it probably took me like 2-3 weeks to actually decide on an actual therapist, and like I went, I like filled out the questionnaire thing. And it's not a process I'm unfamiliar with. Like like you said, we've been black, been in this traumatic experience that's been handed down to us generationally. So like I get it. Like I've 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 known what the experience, but like I walked straight, I walked into the therapist's office and I was like, look, don't tell me nothing. I'm here to talk to you. And she was kind of like, okay. And then like I was pretty sure that I was never coming back. I was like, I'm coming here to get something off my chest so I can clear my mind to think clearly for the next step. And then like, which is why I carefully selected too, because I wanted, in my mind, I wanted to choose somebody where I felt like I needed it to feel a certain way that was kind of in accordance with what I was trying to do. And it kind of felt that way. But I thought what I wanted was to just say what I had to say and then walk away. But like what I wanted was to say what I had to say and then like be able to come back and say more, because when I walk away, I'm gonna think about some stuff that I didn't say last time, or like I didn't say it the way it was meant to come out because I'm just rambling at this point, and I just need to get it all out. But when I think about it, I'm like, oh, this is a way clearer way to say that. And I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna like want to clarify myself.
So did you end up going back to the same person?
I did.
Good for you.
I did for months. Like honestly, like if I got word that this lady moved to Delaware, I would be back in therapy stat. I think the reason why I'm not right now is because I need to go through that process again. Yeah. But I am okay with that process. But like I had to understand like what that process started and why it was so important to go through. And like if I don't impress anything upon this, and like I have the pleasure of having like grown to know so many wonderful people, and like it's crazy, like I hear so many things about like millennials, young millennials, and Gen Z in specific, and like I'm like I have the pleasure of knowing so many beautiful young leaders, like strong young people who like who get like my brothers and sisters who are like it's so much more than like people see so many pointed perspectives, and it's so much more. Like I'm watching my friends on the front line at the protests, like leading and like protecting, and then I'm watching my friends who are like lawyering, and like I have friends who are like working civil rights like missions, and I have friends who are like working small local church missions, and I have friends who are like me doing science, like trying to like learn, like we're doing, like we're infiltrating the best we can.
Yeah.
And I said something the other day. I was like, I'm in healthcare now. I was like, I've said for a long time, like when I watched my little brother go in the first time, I was like, healthcare is something that needs reform. Like we're in the process of talking about truly changing the world for a better place, because that's what this is about. As much as people want to like gripe and grip, like, oh, the world's changing and it's going to be for the worse, we're trying to change the world into a better place. And I know change is scary. Look, we know, we know change is scary and difficult and complicated and overwhelming, but it's coming.
Right.
But like the fact that the past 3 months have sprung so much change, like really helped me go back and be like, all of that change because of who I am. Like I knew that I had to get change. Change is important, and like when we talk about being adult diagnosed, like you kind of get forced through it. You get forced into exposure therapy for so long that you just assume you can maintain exposure therapy. Problem is when you get to a certain point in adulthood without knowing, like you stop being able to, because it does get too much. Like you've overwhelmed yourself so much, overloaded yourself so much. Like yeah, your nerves are numb, so you can probably take so much pain, but you haven't. They're so numb you don't have realize that you've stopped receiving anything because you're stuck. Like you can't. And like that's where I was. I was stuck. I couldn't grow anymore.
Mm.
So like I had to like go and like unlearn the way my body took my trauma. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
to unlearn what that was and what my responses then became. So it's been like a whole growth process, but like the whole past 3 months, like I'm like, okay, the whole world's changing like rapidly now. It's nothing for me to be like, okay, Daniel, we can do this. We
Mm.
we we got this. It's terrifying, but you know, it's for the better ultimately. Ultimately,
That's
That's
right.
right. Ultimately, we're doing what we need to do.
And at
And
some
at some
point
point
now,
now,
isn't it
isn't it
kind of
kind of
like
like
I
I
said earlier, a couple things where I was like, it's not really the people who are loud or making a big deal right now that you need to be worried about. It's really the quiet ones that people need to be worried about. And I said something before to my mom about how I don't know about anybody else, but for me personally, and I can only imagine that some of my birds of a feather feel the same way. All of this has done nothing besides created more of a monster in me than I would have ever been before. Like, for all of the taking the high road and being the voice of reason, and I mean, for years there have been protests. Back to the Rodney King incident, there have been protests and whatever, and I've always been a person who, I'm a writer, and the pen is mightier than the sword. But B, I'm 48 years old. I'm not too far off of segregation and integrating schools. So we've been scared of the police. That's not new to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we my generation, and certainly my mom's generation, were well raised to make a difference without making too much ruckus, if you will. You
Mm-hmm.
know, finding ways to infiltrate and finding ways to, get in a leadership position to make the difference and whatever. But just jumping up and busting people in their head and, kicking doors in, that's not exactly the way that we were raised to do things. And those layers of decorum and respect for chain of command and waiting your turn and all those sorts of things have kind of like fallen off more and more, especially the more I look around and don't really see my peers stepping up to the plate. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, y'all ain't gonna talk about it. I guess it's on me. Because I can't just not talk about it. I can't just leave people hanging. I can't just not,
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Like I was talking to my mom, and I talked to my mom a lot. I actually told my mom I was trying to get her. She has a friend down in Virginia who plays piano for a bunch of churches. He's really good. He is insanely good. He literally just played my mom out an instrumental, like changing the piano to different sounds for her. She wanted to record a gospel song because she's really been enjoying doing this choir thing. But like I talk to her often about things that are going on because like we've my mom's always had conversations with us about this. I mean, one because I mean if you grow up black, you just have conversations about this. And two, I was raised by a single black woman, like the most marginalized group,
right.
if I'm being honest. Like for what? Like watching her go through half of this stuff, and I'm just like, you just can't turn a blind eye to it. Like you can't. Like we've always had conversations about this stuff, and it was like I told her I was like, it's just. I was like, it's crazy because like it's not. It's just it is like I keep seeing this meme floating that says it's not enough to be anti, or it's not enough to be not racist anymore. To just not be racist anymore, you have to be anti-racist.
That's
I was
right.
like, that's all we've been saying from the jump. Is like, I don't care realistically. I mean, like, thank you for not being an a hole.
Right.
Like, you want cookies for that? Like, you're not supposed to be an a hole.
Right.
Like, but like that doesn't help me. What helps me is you actively working against the people who are being a holes.
Imagine if you just stood up for me or recommended me every now and then. Imagine if when they said, "Hey, do you know any other people who might make great speakers?" If you just consciously added one black name to the list every time you do that.
And it's crazy because like to go, I would to any of my friends and family who end up watching this, I am not sorry about what you're about to hear because you know me and you know my mouth. You know how this is going to be. So, like, I have literally worked my entire, like, career, not really intentionally, but kind of subconsciously, kind of consciously, because you kind of know what you're doing. Like, we're, I started looking into like studying things for like medical school and like therapy, like specifically therapy, and like psychology when I was 14. Because I went to a STEM school and like I wanted to choose a path, and engineering just didn't seem like my route because like I'm not the most practically minded person. Like I get kind of hyped up about stuff and then like overthink it or underthink it. I don't know.
I really wanted to go into engineering.
In ninth grade, I got in trouble. I almost set my classroom on fire because I couldn't. I asked the teacher for help, and he was busy. He was helping other students. He was like, after I help this person, and then like I was like, okay, And then I watched him help 3 more people. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it myself. So I took the the wax ring, and put it in the wax melt. And then like 5 minutes later, like we smelled smoke. He was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "See, this is why you just have to help me because I'm gonna do it anyway."
But wait, but how about why is that a common thing that autistic people talk about? Why do I always have to wait until you take 5 more questions? And why do I always have to wait, let me take this person's question before I get to you, and then the whole speech or the whole class is over and you never got to me? Why is that a common thing? What the You can't treat children like that, y'all. Just because you have a kid who is what they call is precocious, whatever you want to call it, the child too smart and you scared of what they might say. That's what's gonna happen. If you keep on making them wait until you answer everybody else's questions and acting like them, treating them like they not in the class, they gonna burn something down. Like, stop it. Stop treating us like that.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, we don't know what happened. You know what happened.
You know
You
exactly what happened.
know what happened.
You know
Listen,
good and doggone well that child was asking you a question and you was ignoring them.
that's why. That's why. Like, I told my mom. She was like, I think maybe I accidentally raised y'all right. I was like, Mom, to be completely honest, you did. I was like, to be completely honest, you did. I was like, it's because you did the one thing, and it was the one thing that you were trying to do on purpose. You didn't realize that it was what you were supposed to do. Is like she didn't invalidate our feelings.
Right.
Like she never went, and she always told us from the jump. She was like, look, I know y'all's character. I'm never just going to blindly believe something somebody tells me. Like, I'm going to want to understand the full thing. So come to me honestly, and I'm always going to be there for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all I expect. And I was like, all right, bet. That makes it very clear. When the rules are clear, the consequences are clear. So like, look, I'm gonna get me started on like
That's something very
laws,
serious for me with
rules.
autism. That's a very serious thing for me because a lot of people talk about autistic kids like they just flat stupid or something, and I don't care how nonverbal they are. I don't care how many meltdowns they have. I don't care. I don't care. If you explain it to us instead of just, a lot of parents do that lazy because I told you so. Oh, just flustered, frustration, whatever. And if you have an autistic child, that's just not going to work. I'm here to tell you. You have to explain things to them. You have to make sense. You have to be consistent. You can't be
And to
talking
be,
about the side outside of your neck. You can't be saying one thing and doing another.
and
You
to be
can't.
completely honest, my mom did make, especially like when she really started going through her own issues. And again, I was raised by a single black woman, and like though she had men come in her life, like when you understand the experience of what it means to be a black woman, you'll understand why single black woman is still possible with a man in your life. And it's because I'm gonna say this very clearly. I want to make sure the camera gets me. Say this very clearly. I'm gonna say it same way I say Black Lives Matter, and the concept all some good cops. Talking about a system. We're talking about a system. If good cops existed, they would be allowed to exist, not fired for speaking up
Come on.
or demoted. And likewise, men are garbage. Generally speaking, we teach, instill garbage as the foundational system. We do not protect our women. We do not look out for our women. Like, so like when you understand like it's just use and abuse and then feed back to wolves, like, and it's like you're sitting there at some point like again, things just have to be clear. Like, why is it not clear that this is asinine? Like, one, to treat another human being. I would look sometimes at some stuff, and this is to get a little deep in my life. I would look at some situations sometimes and be like, if if I could find the words that made sense, because it doesn't even make sense to say if your mother was treated this way, because understanding the experience of what I watched my mother go through, I could 100% understand that his mother probably did go through that. And what's worse is the whole time he's watching his mother go through that, somebody is telling him why it's okay that his mother is going through that and why he needs to believe that she deserves to be going through that. So that he grows up and understands that it's okay to do again to the next person. And that's called a cycle. That's a trauma cycle. So like, no, like it cannot exist. And like, well, good guys exist. I'm a good guy. No,
I
no,
want to back
no.
up. Hold on. Because you said something, you threw it out there, and we ain't going to brush on past it now. Look, we ain't going to act like you just didn't say, basically, the whole system and the whole lot of them and the whole world is broken. And if you're not actively trying to fix it, then you some garbage too, basically, because you can't be a good cop or a good man or a good soldier or a good leader or a good boss or a good politician or a good human and not feel some type of way about not what's going on. Hello, hear me clearly. Not what's going on. What's finally come to a head and what's been going on. Because for starters, y'all gonna stop talking about being upset about what's going on, like what's going on is not coming to a head of what we've been going through, what
Mm-hmm.
I've been going through. Okay, 40 something years I've been on this planet. I ain't making this up. We didn't just bump our heads yesterday and figure all this stuff out. And for some of us, what's going on now is even more disgusting because we've been going through it. And some people are acting like they just woke up and found out yesterday.
Yep.
Okay. And what Daniel just now said is something that I address a lot, but I ain't no man. And I can't address it like he just now addressed it. But he basically just said if you have any parts of any of what's been going on, if you've been seeing any of what's going on, and if you're currently acting like, okay, we just get back to business as usual, you are some trash. Garbage. Because how
Yep.
can you? How can you
Yep.
be any kind of leader, hero, or anything? I don't care what you've been through, and see the suffering of your fellow man, of your women, of people who are less fortunate than you or hurt, or people that you know been being oppressed, and it just don't phase you, and you don't have no care or concern to do nothing about it. Like, so what? You're not racist, but you don't care. You're not. Speaking of which, that's what we supposed to be talking about anyway. So what do you say, Daniel, to the person who says, well, who am I? What can I do? I'm just trying to feed my family. I'm just trying to survive. I ain't never had no superhero. Right? What was the question, Daniel? What if you don't believe in superheroes?
Yeah. How
And
do
that
you
was an old post from some years ago, wasn't it?
yeah.
So
How
tell
do
me about
you
that. Where did that come from and how did it come up and what was the backstory behind that?
how do you inspire some? I'm pretty sure this, and this goes to my most recent vocal article that I wrote. The picture that I tagged is of my friend Ellis, and his brothers. uh, close friends he grew up with, but it's something that I think he posted it. He posted something the same day, and it was something about like I think it was around the Freddie Gray riots, and my heart broke. If anybody understands anything about the Freddie Gray riots, Freddie Gray happened in Baltimore. That happened like that happened in my backyard. Like I grew up there. I didn't know Freddie Gray personally, but he is someone I could have easily known. He like I have people friends who did know him, and I understand their hurt. And there was a kid who was arrested during that time because he cut a fire hose. They set fire to a Rite Aid, and he cut the fire hose. Nobody was in the Rite Aid. They evacuated like way, way, way earlier. And they just set fire to the Rite Aid because they were tired of looking at it. That's what it was. They were tired of seeing the store that didn't represent anything but pain and suffering to their community. They were tired of looking at it, so they set fire to it.
What I'm gonna say? Hmm.
And he might not have even been the one that set fire to it, but he was like, "Let that bitch burn."
Right.
And he walked by, and he cut the fire hose. He was like, "You know what? No water supply. We're gonna make it just as hard for you as you made it hard for us." Because it's frustration. That's what people do.
Right.
Hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
Like simple as that.
And we're not going to bash the victims and blame the victims. We are going to blame the person that has been victimizing them, that has caused them to feel like they have no other recourse. And that's what I'm going to need for y'all to get. I'm no longer talking people down off of rioting or protesting or burning up whatever they want to burn up. I don't have no words for them. All my words are for the people who have some type of influence over the pain that these people have been going
Yeah. So before the story actually broke, friends of mine started circulating like information along Facebook about it being a friend of mine, and I was like, well, I literally just stopped in. Me and Sam had stopped at White Marsh Mall, and like spoken to him just like a month or two earlier. Just being back in Baltimore, we stopped by a store he was working in, and like chatting, catching up old times. Like it's a guy I knew. He's a friend of mine. I know his character. Same way my mom told me, I know your character. And that's the way I approach it. I know his character. So now I have to approach the situation like, okay, something is clearly amiss here, and it's not like not something that I don't know because again we're raised in this, but like I'm not here to address the problems. The problems have been here. We've been addressing the problems. So now we're addressing solutions. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a bunch of people addressing solutions. Like we have to talk about this. You can't take someone's basic human rights. Well, I explained, I was like, when we were all in kindergarten, we all looked at each other and we were like, I hope you make it out of here alive. First day of kindergarten, we looked at the person across the hall and we were like, look, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've been here for 5 minutes. I have only been here for a few moments on this earth. I don't know what's going on. There's this taller version of us who's talking in words that we don't clearly understand, but we're trying. I hope you survive because that's all you can do. That's all you can do. So where do we learn? Where do we learn to be so mean spirited and hateful and disgusting? Like, I don't know. Because the problems have been here. I don't know.
It's early socialization skills. It's
Yeah, like
early. Yeah,
we,
it's the early learning. It's
Yeah, we
It's
teach.
all of those early learned skills that you and I lack that causes us to be considered weird.
We teach it. Oh, boys will be boys. What does that mean? Like what? That vague expression you have just so you can sexually assault
Yeah,
someone and
yeah,
silence
yeah,
them
pretty much.
because boys will be boys. That vague expression, just something you can hide behind, because that's what vague expressions are. There's something you can hide behind. They're a smoke screen.
Our whole entire society is built on a rape culture that has all types of alternative languages for rape, like women in the military who report sexual assault and rape, which is non consensual sex, okay? And then you find out that the man, when they finally did arrest him, he got arrested for inappropriate sex. You raped somebody and all you got charged with was having sex with somebody that you weren't supposed to have sex with. You didn't even get charged with rape. But that's our whole society is based on that. From military to schools to from the youngest to the oldest, from Hollywood to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I do know that it's a tactic of power to oppress somebody or cause them pain or otherwise, you know, take away from them in some kind of way to make them hungry enough to do what you want them to do so that you can give them stuff. Like it's the
And
serial killer's assistant or the rapist's assistant or the oppressor's, you know, foreman or whatever. Like I'm gonna starve
and
this person and then I'm gonna
and,
offer them a little bit of food if they'll
and you
help me to oppress the others.
and you know what? And if you're if you're listening to this and you're offended by this conversation so far, let me go a bit further. Um, that is the weakest form of power. It is. That's 100% what it is. It is a form of power. This
That's
this
why
this
you're a
power.
sellout and an Uncle Tom if you do that. That's why they
It
call
is.
it that, because you're a
It,
punk, basically.
it is the weakest form of power. Like realistically, I listened to Sam had made me listen to this
And I'm
online.
sorry to cut you off, but let me put this out here. That goes for women who do it too, y'all. It's like when it's like when women assist rapists, it's turned into that they're victims. But when men assist rapists or whatever the oppressor person is, they're horrible. We got to start looking at this the same. And yes, you can traumatize a woman into aiding the rapist. You can traumatize a male employee into oppressing his lower ranking employees, just like you can traumatize a black man into um, assisting in the oppression of black women or a black woman into hating on other black. All of this, y'all, it doesn't matter if we're talking about men or women or black or white. It's all from a place of trauma. And we have to talk about that when we start talking about solutions too, because a lot of us, I'm not, again, I'm not judging you. If you don't feel like talking to no white people at all right now, that's your prerogative. I'm just saying, maybe you should consider that if you really got the Eve gene, hello somebody, then maybe all of these years of heartache and pain and trauma and oppression, and yet we still here, we still standing, we still shining, we still doing what we do. I'm not saying for everybody. Some of y'all are too damaged and you don't have no business talking to nobody. But if you have still have the strength, what's wrong with teaching people how to do it right? What's wrong with being the one to show the way? I mean, we don't have to like just write people off just because they did it wrong. You
Uh-huh.
know, that's why I was talking about best enemies today. That's the best example that I could think of currently, where you have, you know, the activists and the supremacists, and they going at it and going at it, and to the point where they develop almost like a best friend sort of love hate type friendship. Like you would think that after going toe to toe with a white supremacist and being a black person that there's nowhere to go from there, but there is. And there's lots of relationships that have developed that way, and there's lots of very fruitful conversations that have taken place between, black people in the KKK, and because we've been black, because we've been living this life, it's on us to share the stories of how, oh, one time I was in a Cracker Barrel and this old white dude with overalls sat next to me, and you could tell by looking at him, but you could also tell by how he talked. He really ain't met too many black people in his whole entire life, and he used the word colored. Did I choose to correct him? No, because to be honest with you, I'd be confused on that myself, and it was a long time ago. But I was more concerned with his character and his heart and the love that he was trying to express by learning and growing and getting to know us than I
Yeah.
was with if he had all the right words.
It's the people who learn the system, and it is not. And this is why I try to explain to people, and to tie back to that. Can you? Can you? And I ask this question to anybody who is willing to take up this challenge, because that's what it is. It's a challenge. Can you inspire someone who doesn't believe in heroes? How do you inspire someone who doesn't believe in heroes?
There's only one way to do it. I've been thinking about that ever since I first saw that question in your profile and we decided we were going to do this show. I've been thinking about that question and I've been talking through it with people. And the one little part I just now said, I just now came to. Because, like what I first said was, if if you never, if you don't believe in superheroes, it's probably because you don't feel like you've ever seen one. And if you've never seen one, chances are it's you. If there's no superheroes to be found and you are conscious of the very concept of it, then it's probably you. But oftentimes, just like you see in the movies, people like Stan Lee and T.S. Eliot and all those writers did a really great job of giving us, you know, fictional things that we can grasp on that are metaphors for life. The whole Wolverine, I'm nobody's hero. Who can I help? I'm just a mutant. I messed up my own self and all those sorts of things. They're excuses of why I can't step up to the plate and
Mm-hmm.
be the change and stand up for you if you need me to stand up for you. Those are
Right.
excuses. But that's not the question. The question isn't how do you become a superhero if you don't believe in superheroes. The question was how do you inspire someone who doesn't believe in superheroes? And then therefore that answer is for the person who has seen superheroes and who has experienced superheroes. And they're looking at this person over here, the young Padawan, the young grasshopper, trying to explain to them how they're supposed to take up this mantle and be the change and do for others, right? But this person
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in superheroes. Well, guess what? If you're the sensei, if you're the guru, if you're Professor X, the only way that you're going to inspire somebody who doesn't believe in superheroes is to show them what a superhero looks like. It's the only way.
Yes.
It's the only way.
Yes. Yes. That brings me to my
How are you
next.
going to keep telling me how I have this destiny to fulfill and how I'm responsible for helping others, and I'm sitting here telling you I don't know what that look like and I don't know what it feel like and I ain't never seen it. But you
Mm-hmm.
telling me I got to do it. If you're not going to do it for me and show me what that looks like, there's no way that you're going to tell me that that's what I'm supposed to be doing because it's just talk. It's just lip service.
Yep. Look, go back and watch the other podcasts because we get into some stuff and we don't got time to go back and catch it all up. But all I do, because you have to put in the footwork. So I posed that question. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you brought it back up. I'm so glad because that is that we got some stuff coming. That's gonna be at the forefront of what's coming next. By the way, this been a crazy year, but it's been exactly what I've been hoping to set us up perfectly for the
Listen, y'all got to
Renaissance.
go back and listen to the previous episodes.
Perfect setup. It was the perfect setup,
It's
and
almost like we didn't know how bad off we were. Isn't that something? we didn't know that we were so traumatized and so stuck as a culture that we were sitting here calling for something for the future, but we didn't realize how deep we were and how much digging out of where we were we had to do before we could get where we was talking about.
Yup. Yup. And I'm so excited for this period that's coming. Like as everyone should be. And I'm looking, and it's so clear. It's so clear. It's so clear. All of the things that are happening, all the businesses popping up, all the businesses shutting down.
Come on.
It is it's a lot. Everybody's passions have been jarred
Come
and
on.
stirred, and it's a lot happening, and it's the perfect storm of a lot happening. And this is exactly what we needed. So I'm hyped. So I'm really happy that question popped back up, because now now is the time. Like we we read about the superheroes. Like we had the generation who wrote about the superheroes. We had the Stan Lees who wrote about the superheroes, so then that we could read about the superheroes, so then we could become the superheroes, so then we can inspire the true superheroes.
Right.
I'm a huge anime nerd. I'm a nerd about anything I get in anything. I've been getting really into Naruto,
I clicked
and
on something when I was doing my Facebook gaming earlier and I saw your profile picture.
it all ties back to, and I'm so glad you said what you said. I'm so glad when you get to talking. I always get so glad when you get to talking. School them, school them. The truth of the matter is, we can blame whatever institutions, whatever social media sites, whatever businesses, whatever, whatever we want to blame, but we also need to not detract from the fact that it is not necessarily these. That's why this narrative, like this conversation, is so hard. It's not the TikTok. It's not the Facebook or the MySpace, or it's the people who believe the narrative that has been pushed for so long. It's the people who are in control of these companies. It's the people who not even just in control of the companies, but the people who are sitting there and looking at the video. It's the customers too. When I was in high school, I worked my way through college until I got my first internship that I turned into a job. And I worked for Royal Farms for 4 years. My first year when I moved up to college, I told my manager by my birthday I wanted to be a manager. And so she made me a food service manager on my birthday. Like eventually we got people who rotated out night shifts, and I eventually had like 3 4 people that I would work with regularly. And I used to tell them all the time, and I told my manager a couple of times, I was like, the moment I am no longer employed by Royal Farms, I am 100% coming back just to stand in the line. And anybody who is being a dick to these food service people or these customer service people who are just trying to do their jobs, I'm just going to stand there and bicker with them because I got time. And they can't do nothing to me because I'm no longer legally employed with Royal Farms. I don't work there. I'm just a customer just like you. You want to go? You got to go. So like, but like people didn't. And I used to think too when I was working there, I was just a young kid when I started. I was 17. It was right before I turned 18. They let me start a little bit early doing like taking out the trash and stuff before I could like seriously be behind the counter with the cigarettes or like by the fryer. Like even at 18, like young kid, and like I have grown men, like people wilding me out. like grown people, like disrespecting me.
That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother layer of all of the stuff you're talking